So in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to walk you through and talk you through all the tools and the tricks as to how you can now finally stick to what it is that you need to do to lose the fat you want to lose. So firstly, let's cover the things that you think are the things that are holding you back. Number one, you've tried everything and nothing seems to work. You've got a busy life, you travel with work, it's just not something that you can factor and fit in. I just can't help myself around food, I just can't stop myself from picking. You've got a slow metabolism, you haven't got the genetics. All these things are not the reason as to why you cannot get into shape. So for those of you who don't know, my name is George Wild. I'm a fitness professional, the founder of George Wild Coaching, and I have helped hundreds to thousands of people lose fat in a position like yourself who did not believe they could ever do so. So now in this video, I'm going to give you 10 years worth of lessons and experience that are tried and proven not only on myself and my own fitness journey, but with, again, the hundreds to thousands of clients that we have worked with over the years. So in this video, we're going to save you a decade's worth of work, give you the tools that you can apply today. So regardless of your situation, fundamentally, weight loss, fat loss comes down to one simple thing. It comes to calories in versus calories out. It comes to input versus output. And yes, you're right, that sounds so simple, but it's about how we then understand this and apply this to our day-to-day life. So as the majority of us do, we tend to struggle with food. So before we break down macros and fats and proteins, etc., the number one rule and the biggest driver to all the results that I've achieved over the years has been down to one single fact, and that is adherence. So before we even look into the minutiae of what it takes to lose weight, we have to work with you to build something that you're first and foremost able to adhere to. A quote I will consistently use when it comes to building programs is the best plan in the world is no longer the best plan in the world if you cannot stick to it. So when it comes to building your own plans and your own structures, it's what can you stick to, and then from there, you can then begin to add complexity. So what I want to cover in this video is the 4 major roadblocks that I see as to why you are not sticking to the current setups and programs that you're trying to follow. So number one, and this is the biggest killer of all programs that I see today, and that is over restriction. So actually jumping in gun-ho, too heavy, too fast, too hard, and quite quickly back to my original point of adherence, seeing ourselves fall off very, very quickly. So many weight loss programs that you've possibly already tried or you're going to see are going to quite quickly cut your calories. They're going to over restrict your calories. Therefore, by doing so, it's going to limit your ability and the variety of foods that you can have. So therefore, again, they are going to limit and restrict the types of foods that you can have within your day. So again, if you restrict your calories, first and foremost, you're going to see a high level of hunger. This is going to create cravings. So at some point, there's going to be a breakdown. There's going to be a binge. Again, falling off the plan, we're unable to adhere. Secondly to that, with the limited variety of foods that we can have, the diet's going to come across very, very boring. Again, to the point whereby you get bored, you fancy something else, you fall off, again, we're unable to adhere. So there are 2 initial points that we're going to see by over-restricting. So then how I would address this is I would look to apply foods that I like and foods that I enjoy. Again, slightly differently to the low-calorie approach that's more aggressive, and okay, maybe you're not going to see the quite as aggressive results in terms of the progress. You're not going to lose 5 kilos in your first week, but you're also not going to gain that 5 kilos back in the second week or the week after the week after. What you are then going to do is you're going to stagger this out in a more sustainable, maintainable way, so over a long period of time, not only are you liking and enjoying the foods that you enjoy, but you're also achieving results. Again, looking at these super aggressive diets, removing 1,000 calories, why not take the approach of just 200 calories over 5 weeks, and the likelihood is you'll still be going 5 weeks later. If you pull 1,000 calories out today, the likelihood is you're probably not going to get past week 1. And again, we're looking for longevity. The key to results is consistency, like mentioned, and over 5 weeks, you're actually going to look the way you want to look. Point number 2. Everyone's favorite excuse, and that is time. And I'm going to be that person that puts it out there and says everyone has time, but it's true. It's just how we utilize the time that we have. So this is when it's important to break down and have a look at things like shopping and meal prep and just generally planning and preparing ahead. So therefore, that's why it's so important for you guys to build a structure. Therefore, you can plan and prepare ahead of time. So by actually creating a structure based around the foods that you're going to eat and devising a plan, well, this is going to do a number of things. This is going to halve the time that you're going to spend in the supermarket. Actually having that in order is going to allow you to potentially order online. So therefore, that's going to cut out half the time that you would spend on your shopping. If you have to meal prep ahead of time, all your meals are done through the week. So therefore, you're not having to cook, for example, half an hour every night. If you could do 45 minutes on a Sunday, you're saving yourself then half an hour, 5 days a week. And what's the maths? I'm not too sure. It's not my forte, but it's true. And it's the difference being, and again, the options with that is it then prevents us having breakdown. Because what if, for example, we leave things last minute, we get home from work, we get stuck in a meeting, we get stuck in traffic, and you've got to come home, you then have to cook. You're just preventing the potential chance of you having to then not have to cook. If it's already made, it's simple. Again, it saves you so much time. So when it comes to time itself, looking at how we approach that, firstly having a structure applied, knowing exactly what it is that we need and what it is that we need to do. And then when it comes to meal prep itself, let's try this trick. So for example, again, like I mentioned, the half an hour every night of the week is quite time consuming, whereby on a Sunday, if you've got the structure, you know what you're gonna have. I'm gonna have a chicken wrap every single day for my lunch, something like that, perfect. So I need 100 grams of chicken per wrap, amazing. So what I do on a Sunday is I would just prepare and cook 500 grams of chicken. So as we know, when chicken kind of comes raw, it's full of water, it's gonna be somewhat heavy. When you put it into the oven, it's gonna lose that water waste. Then when it comes out of the oven, all you would need to do is reweigh that new chicken and then divide that by the same original 5 that you already did. It's the same amount of chicken, it just looks and weighs slightly different. So that's a real quick way for you to prepare ahead of time. Organize your week in advance, and you can do the exact same thing with carbohydrates. So for example, if you want to have rice this time, it's going to be the opposite way around. You're going to add water. It goes in at a raw weight, again of 100 grams. We've got 5 meals. Say we're going to have 5 meals of 100 grams per week, 500 grams. We add our water, we put it in, we cook it, it comes out, and then wherever the new amount is, again we divide it by 5. And there is your meals prep for the week. You have saved yourself so much time and so much stress. And this can be done for all meats, all carbohydrates. And it's about creating things which are going to be time saving. So this is super, super important. You want to create a life for yourself that's actually more convenient. Therefore, you're more likely to stick to it. Point number 3, and that's convenience. And like mentioned before, what you're trying to do here is create the path of the least resistance. So therefore, by you applying things more inconvenient to your life, you're more likely to again fall off. So for example, if you are someone who's already struggling with time, struggling to be prepared, and then I suggest to you that, okay, let's make these meals from scratch, we're having to chop up tomatoes, chop up onions, chop whatever. It's like, that's just going to be another resistance against what we're trying to do. That's way more inconvenient than what you're already doing. So quite naturally, you're going to fall back to the things that are easy. Makes sense. And therefore you want to create a life which is so convenient that actually it's more inconvenient to miss. So for example, again, we go back to the fridge, your meals are already made. You're going to have to rummage past those meals to get to those oven pizzas or whatever it is, the chicken dippers or the chicken nuggets, whatever it is. That's more of an inconvenience to get past those. So effectively, the easiest option is get your meal out, you go warm it up and you eat it and you enjoy it. Like I mentioned before, you get in better shape. So it's about creating that across your whole life effectively. If you get to a point whereby your life is easy, your life is stress-free, you're in the best shape you've ever been, you've felt the best you ever have. In terms of longevity, why would you ever go back to feeling any different? Why would you go back to being stressed? Why would you go back to being stressed about making your meals and going to the shop and thinking about food and why would you want that? Point number 4, and I'm going to combine 2 and 1, so you get 1 free. We're going to do structure and we're going to do flaws within your day. So firstly, looking at structure, this is why I just don't love the idea of if it fits your macros for someone who's a beginner. I think, listen, what we're doing there is telling you to hit so many calories, hit this much protein, this many carbs, etc. It's effectively jargon to someone who isn't in the know. It's like telling me to look for a certain valve or a gasket on an engine of a car. I have no idea. It's the point of actually doing this is to simplify things, again, not making it difficult for you to stick to. So that's why I think having structure in the day is super, super important, because again, if you are given, for example, 2,500 calories with no idea of how to use them, naturally we are going to gravitate towards the cheat codes, and that is, okay, 2,500 calories, I can fit in a Domino's after work. If I don't eat all day, I can eat a Domino's after work. But this then lends itself to so many negative, poor habits. And again, another reason as to why we can't stick on, because, if you are saving yourself all day to have this Domino's, great. I'm not sure how that's going to impact your physique. I don't believe positively, just from the nutrients that are in it, but let's not go that far into it. But first and foremost, you're going to spend the whole day feeling tired, grumpy, hungry, unproductive with your work. If you are factoring in workouts, you're not going to have eaten, so therefore your workouts are going to be rubbish. So none of this lends itself to positivity nor sustainability. Also, by this point, when you get to dinner time, if I hadn't eaten all day, I'm going to be absolutely ravenous. So I may have killed someone on the way home, but also by the time I do get home, my food focus is going to be so high, my perception of food is going to be so skewed that 2,500 calories is not going to touch the sides. So then what will end up happening is I'm going to overeat at that point. I'm going to get a Domino's, and when I'm ordering the Domino's, I'll see cookies, I'll see other bits and pieces, they'll all get thrown in because I'm so hungry. Then actually becomes 3,000 calories. So yet again, we have not adhered to the calories in place. So this is why structure is so important. Structuring in foods across the day to curb our cravings. So if we can space food out through this, what I would do is look to spread our meals out to sort of 4, potentially 5 meals a day, making sure that we regulate our blood sugars, but again, not to overcomplicate it, more so just regulate our cravings and our hunger. So if we can spread this out through the day, you're less likely to build this level of food focus there and this level of hunger to therefore see you binge and crave. And then on top of that as well, I think it's important to address our flaws when creating our structure. So for some of us, again, potentially, breakfast isn't an option. And we all say, breakfast is the best meal of the day, or the most important meal of the day. But for the reasons I mentioned before, if you're not structuring in food through the day, if, for example, if you don't have breakfast, by the time it gets to lunchtime, you're going to have built up this higher level of hunger than you naturally would, and you might overindulge or eat at lunch. Definitely a thing that I've seen. So it's important to just structure something. And if you're not a massive eater, that's fine too. Understand that and factor in something small, but I think that's super important. But when I look at the flaws in my day, you've got to look at the fact of, is this down to, like I mentioned, the flaws, or is it down to potentially association? So I'm going to break that down. We've obviously looked at breakfast. Well, maybe at 10 o'clock that you are always having a cup of tea and a couple of biscuits, and this is down to association. So quite quickly with structure and laying out your structure, you can pinpoint that this is probably not a great thing to have. So what I would do then is I would structure something in maybe a meal or a snack around 10:30. So therefore, when it comes to the 10 o'clock break time, everyone's eating biscuits and cups of tea. It's okay. I'm going to eat at 10:30. So therefore, you're well aware that's what you're going to do. That's going to keep us on track. Secondly to that, you might find that you maybe start to have like a hunger spike around 3 o'clock in the afternoon every day. I definitely have done. And you look at your structure and you think, well, I'm not eating between sort of 12 and 5. That's a huge gap. Why do I find myself always going to the vending machine at 3 o'clock when this hunger level starts to kick in? That's the reason that you're falling off. It's because there's a lack of preparation, a lack of organization, and a lack of strategy in that window. So for me, let's just factor something in. And then lastly, this is definitely my biggest flaw, was always the evenings. So after dinner, there's that massive gap in the evening whereby, again, by association, we normally sit on the couch, we'll eat sweets, we'll eat chocolate. This kind of thing is really common. Or alternatively, we're bored, or we are just craving sweet stuff. So really look at factoring something into that evening portion whereby it's going to curb our cravings. If you like savory, factor in savory. If you like sweet, if you're anything like me and you like sweet, I'll always have a sort of a flavored Greek yogurt bowl with frozen berries and dark chocolate. I mean, I love chocolate, I love sweet stuff. I want to factor that in. For me as well, on top of that, if that is an area of weakness for you, factor in another 200 calories. So maybe put in, again, have a bowl of oats, have some caramel snack attacks, have something there, because by having that additional 200 calories, that's going to prevent that 500 to 1,000 calorie binge, which makes total sense just to take the hit of the 200. Okay, you're not going to lose weight as fast as the person that's eating 1,000 calories a day, but you're also not going to fall off. There's more consistency built. So it's about looking at the structure of the day and understanding your flaws and addressing them. And that's why I think it's super important to have a structure in place so you can really quickly pinpoint. I think this is key when it comes to actually achieving long-term results. So finally, just to recap as to how you can now start to lose weight on your journey. So first and foremost, as we mentioned at the very start, losing weight is underpinned by calories in, calories out, your energy balance, number one. But the most important part to achieving that, calories in, calories out, is over time. So consistency. To achieve consistency, we need sustainability. And back to my big point of the whole video, is something that you're able to adhere to. And just before I forget, listen, I have said so many times in this video that it's about creating the path of the least resistance for you, but it is still important that you do apply yourself to what it is that you do. And there is sacrifice required from both sides. If I can get to that point whereby I can teach you things that you do not need to try, then listen, you'll be the first to know. But on that point, what I need you guys to do is to help yourselves. So listen to the points that I've gone through in the video and take them on board, and now finally start to achieve consistency within your food structure and start to see results.